Hello, my name's Mike Mulvihill. Recently I was asked about my own Christmas memories. And while I was thinking about Christmas time during my life, from a young age, it's changed a lot. People have come and gone. Time has moved on. But the memories not. Back then, in some cases, from Santa, I can recall getting colouring books and markers, little plastic army men, maybe a jigsaw or a game of snakes and ladders. Nowadays, these Santa gifts have, for some, become phones and tablets. It's hard to comprehend now, in years gone by. Gifts from Santa to be opened on Christmas Day included apples and oranges, and maybe a wooden train if you're lucky. Over the past couple of years, I presented a similar show called Christmas Past. And today, this is another collection of Christmas stories from people who I've spoken to. On this programme, I'll talk to Jim Gralton, a native of Effrina in County Leitrim. But first, Padraig O'Neill from Brain Drum in County Leitrim.
When the weather would just be getting good, they'd whitewash the house. Nice and whitewashing, and it's going to rain. It'll be washed away.
What is a whitewash?
It's just lumps of lime put into a bucket of water and melted and slurred up.
We do the house maybe once or twice a year, inside and outside.
I suppose maybe around Christmas time it was always done as well.
Oh yeah, that's things to be brightened up.
And then that was put on with a brush.
And they reckon that there was something in the lime as well that would keep germs out and worms
kill
and
all insects and all that,
anything like that. And there was a good reason why people were doing it and putting that into the mix.
As well as whitening. Well, that was the main thing. That whitening. There were stones, and when you put them in the water, they turned into lime.
Where would the lime have come from then locally for?
You had most
whitewashing.
People had a quarry, and they burned the lime themselves. You burned your own lime. You made your own lime. When we used to have to drink that, I used to hate it. You put a lump of lime into a bowl of water and leave it there for hours, sizzling away. And then when it was settled down pure, clear, you had to drink that. That cleared you out.
So if you had worms or anything like that.
If you had anything wrong inside, I'll tell you that. That would clear it out. Yeah.
And what did it taste like, Padraig?
Oh, it tasted good. Good clear water.
It didn't have a head?
No. That disinfected everything around the house as well. The lime killed all germs and everything.
And worms and...
Yeah.
It'd keep mice out as well. They didn't like the smell of it, did they?
No, they didn't care too much of it. No, you'd always get the mouse coming in.
He'd always be looking for a way in.
Yeah, he'd come in under the door. He can get out through that size of it.
Yeah.
He can flatten himself out as flat as a pancake and crawl through.
Yeah.
And watch them ahead. It's unbelievable.
We should at this moment remind you to consult with your doctor when it comes to any treatment, as medical practices, traditions or cures of the past may now be outdated and not recommended. We included such pieces for heritage and entertainment purposes only.
Growing up, Jim, in the house, I'm sure there was lots of religious pictures. The rosary was probably said.
No religious, no pictures in our house.
None.
There was a picture of Gloria Swanson. Mother knew her in America, or met her. A picture of Thomas Ashe and O'Brien, another actor. He was there before Hugh O'Brien ran him. A very good looking man. And there was that one with a Selton ambush.
Yeah.
And that was the picture in our house.
And what about the rosary? Would that be recited?
No. But in my grandfather's, it was always recited.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of people in my grandfather's But at 10 o'clock, right lads, to 10:30, down your knees for the rosary. You, Sonny Stewart, down your knees with the rest of them or else out the door. Sonny Stewart was a Protestant. And sometimes Sonny would go down on his knees and more times he'd go out.
Would it be said aloud or would it
be said aloud, yeah. My grandfather gave around the rosary, we'd answer it. No, he wouldn't answer it, no. He was a very nice man, great man.
Would that go on every night?
Every night, yeah. Oh, aye, every night.
And do you remember the Latin Mass?
I do, yeah. Yeah, I do. Oh.
And would you have understood it at all? Or?
No.
And was it all in Latin from beginning to end?
Yeah, no. I know some of it, Dominus Dei and all this.
Here you lie, son. Christy, you lie, son. Here you lie, son.
You can recall it?
Yeah. Oh, Lord of mercy, Christ of mercy, Lord of mercy.
Did you do Latin in school?
Oh, yeah, they serve Mass in Latin too.
Did you serve Mass? You did?
I did, yeah. I don't need time. Everybody, all young lads had to.
Where was that? In Garva, was it?
Garva, yeah.
And did you spend many years serving?
Nah. You don't. You only do it for a couple of years and then you're moved on. You're going up to a higher class. You're moved on and the next one then coming up for his first communion. He had to do it for a couple of years as well.
Yeah. And you'd have to wear the vestments, did you?
Yeah.
And who was the priest that time? You remember his name?
There was a Canon Masterson. He was the head fell up there.
There's probably a few priests, was there?
It was, yeah. Well, you see, you had Mull, Ashland and Garva. That was three churches in the one parish that Mass had to be said in. A couple of Masses every Sunday in each of them.
It's a tough life, that.
Ah, it is, yeah.
A lonely life.
Oh, it must be a sight.
And I dealing a lot with sickness and death, and
yeah.
I know there's births and marriages too, and to balance things up, but there's a lot of sadness there, and
you have to be made for that. There's some people made for it, but my mother was in the convent in Carrick for a year or so, but she said it was the wild ones that became nuns. Not the ones you'd expect to become nuns at all, but the wild ones.
Yeah. And why do you think that was?
I don't know.
What about the stations where a Mass would be said in a house? You would have probably had that, would you?
Yeah. We were having a station over there in the house. And postman landed with a telegram that my uncle was killed in England. And the screams of my grandmother was a sight.
And that was at the station where that news got broken.
Yeah.
And a station was a Mass said by a priest in a house, isn't that right?
That's right, yeah. That's what the station was.
And would there be an altar set up?
I don't know why it was called a station. Yeah, well, there was a cloth put over the table and that was made an altar out of.
So the cloth would be put over the table, and the priest would say Mass, and then at the end of the Mass the priest would sit down and have a meal. Yeah.
And
then whatever was used to celebrate the Mass would go off to another house.
So the priest would bring it away with him and to go somewhere else.
And would all the neighbours gather round for it?
They would, yeah. And you went to the next house then as well, to their station.
Yeah. You never really hear of a station now?
No. The only time you get a Mass said in a house now is a new house after being built. And when we starting off, and they'd get a Mass said in the house to bless it, to bless the house.
What was it like around Efron at Christmas time?
Well, I always found Christmas lonely time. Everyone nearly stayed to their own home, you know. There wasn't many dances or anything. And sometimes you go away to a dance, but it'll be, you come home, everyone's in bed. And
what about then, you know, when it come to decorating the inside of a house for Christmas?
No, there wasn't much Christmas decorations that time. There wasn't any, you know. I can't remember ever Christmas decorations going up back that time.
Maybe a bit of holly.
Yeah, well, it was always holly, Brian.
Would the crib be put in?
No, not much. The crib was in the church. And you might get the honour of laying the Virgin and the Jesus and Joseph into it.
Of course, at Christmas we used to have joins. You heard about the joins, did you?
That's where people would get together.
Yeah.
Houses.
Yeah, my grandfather was a good place. The Mosses was a good place. Sometimes Rory's. But one Christmas they were in my grandfather's Christmas Eve, and there's nothing happened. It was very dead, and there's 5 or 6 lads there. And they says we'll have a join, and they said we'll never get beer this time. So they went down to Lynch's for a half hour, and we can't, it's too near the Christmas, you know. So they went over to Dials of Duncombe and they said the same thing, they can't. Well, John James Early, his brother Mike's, he said, well, we wouldn't bother you any for Hugh Gralton died last night, and I'm down to the Cork House, you know, another come, we'll give you a half bar. So they came back and they couldn't tell my grandfather right away, you know.
Yeah.
And they got set up and had the thing, and when my grandfather was on the 3rd pint, they told him. Well, he says, I'm the happiest corpse in Ireland, he said.
And so the joins would be going on. Would there be musicians in the house then?
Oh, yeah. There was... You'd have a band in no time. Packy Bryan was a great musician. My uncle Michael was. Terence Early was a great musician. Bridgie Bryan was a great musician. Mikey Farrell, Annie Dugan, all great musicians.
And did the McDonoughs have a band?
They did, yeah. They used to have a dances in their barn. And they used to have they ran dances in Luton as well.
The McDonough band?
Yeah.
And I suppose at Christmas time then, you know, when it would come, there'd be no Christmas trees, it'd be probably all holly, would it?
It would be, we didn't have... some people might, you know, but we didn't. You got the first thing in your stocking was, at the bottom of your stocking was an orange. That was the trademark.
There was no toys or anything like that?
No, I remember the first ball I got, and you couldn't get it around here. It was people from Cork sent it up. They stayed in our house for a couple of weeks, and they sent up a ball. And myself and my father started playing the ball in the house, and we broke a picture, and that was the end of that. We're out.
Well, you got your few little toys, your presents for the Christmas. your French fiddle, we used to call it. Harmonica. And a few other bits and pieces like that you got.
You would have written a letter to Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah.
And the chimney would be cleaned.
Oh, the chimney would be kept clean. Joe Degnan was in our house one night, and he left a hat after him on a stick, and that was supposed to be Santa Claus that forgot it, you know.
Oh yeah.
It really put a tin hat on it, you know. I really believed it.
Oh gosh.
Santa was good though. He came every year.
Yeah, well, he came every year, but he didn't bring you much. Not like now.
You wouldn't have got to go to see Santa like now either, or get a photograph with him.
No, there wasn't any of them that time.
What was it like coming up to Christmas, you know, we'll say for you, and what you can recall?
Well, you were getting ready, you were getting the turkey ready for killing and plucking and cleaning for the Christmas dinner. Maybe a goose.
And did you raise your own turkeys growing up?
Well, you always had a clutch of turkeys or geese every year for selling for the Christmas.
Yeah.
You'd sell them, you'd keep one for eating for the Christmas, and the rest had to be sold to get money for yourself for the Christmas.
That was a big income at Christmas.
The turkeys would be brought off then to maybe a local shop or a local market and sold.
To
and
Murphy's and Garvey, yeah. That was the place where the turkeys went.
And
men and women in there killing and plucking all the time.
where would them turkeys then go?
All over Ireland and over to England. They were shipped out to England.
And how soon would you, like, how close to Christmas would you bring the turkeys up there?
A week beforehand or so.
And how would you bring them then from where you are here in Braindrum?
Up on the back of the cart. Cover them over so as they wouldn't fly away.
And you bring them up and they'd be brought in. I suppose they'd be weighed, would they?
They'd be brought in and weighed, and you got paid in the corner. Your weight to your what you got.
And then would you get paid that day?
I don't know. I suppose you did.
Yeah. That was a nice little earner coming up to Christmas, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. You look forward to getting them that bit of money coming in at Christmas.
Yeah. I suppose that for each turkey it would be the equivalent of probably getting 15 or 20 euro in today's money, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would, yeah.
And you might have how many turkeys? 20, if you were lucky.
If you were lucky, you might have 18 or 19 anyway. 15.
So that money then would go a long way towards making sure that every home had
clothes and everything else for the Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the dinner table then, you know, that time would have been a lot different too, because a lot of it was grown at home.
It was all grown at home, and we killed our own pig. We killed the pig at September or October, and that did us all through winter. And my father killed pigs for the whole country.
Yeah.
All over the place.
As well as that, then you'd have the potatoes in a heap, you'd have your whatever was needed, really.
Yeah.
How would you put them into the heap? What was the secret?
Just put them in and cover them over, build them up in a heap.
Yeah.
And then put straw around them first, and then heap the soil up, keep the frost out and keep rain out from them.
And how thick would you go with the...
You could go 6 inches deep of soil.
On top of the straw?
Yeah, outside of the potatoes, yeah.
So then when you got the potatoes, what else would you have stored, and how would you have stored it?
Well, we used to have turnips that time.
Yeah.
Well, Swedes, as they call them. We used to call them the turnips. Sure. Turnip is a little small white fella. The Swede is a big coloured one. That's what we used to call the turnips.
And would you have grown many of them?
You would. You grow several ridges of them.
And would the ridge be something similar to what you put the potatoes in?
Yeah. It would be, yeah. If you had, say, moor ground, that dark soil that was easy shovel, you'd make drills.
Like a bog?
Yeah.
And what's a drill?
Well, the drill was just shovel each side to be about that wide of a ridge. wouldn't be a big... A ridge was about, 3 foot wide. And the drill was only about 6 inches.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have a single line, turnips or whatever you had in it, down along.
And how high would that... It would be 6 inches wide, and then how high would it be?
I figured
Maybe another 6?
you'd have it 6-7 inches high.
And you drop your seed into that then, would you?
Yeah. And you had your carrots in that as well. And parsnips. Beetroot. Yeah, grow, I think.
And how would you have stored the carrots? Can you remember how the carrots would have been stored?
They were put in a heap, the same as the potato, and covered over, and inside put on top of it. Same.
What about the Swedes? What about the Swedes?
They were, all them things was all put in pits like that, in heaps, and covered.
Yeah.
For the winter.
Would onions have been brought in?
There was lots of them. They'd be hung up somewhere out in the shade, where the air you get at them. And Hanks, they used to call them.
Oh, me Uncle Nicky had the poker nass. This poker nass, you know, was awful crass. He was the biggest poker nass, the finest poker nass, the wildest poker nass in Ireland.
He ran for about a great ass, a big ass, the biggest ass I ever have seen. I was about 12, I suppose, and I went down for potatoes. It was a real cold day, and I had 2 creels on him. And I had these creels 3/4 full, and he lay down, and he wouldn't get up. I had to go up and get my father. My father was sick at the time, and he had to come down and take the creels off and get him up, and then put them back up on him again. Oh, it was an awful session altogether. My main transport at them first was a donkey. I bought a donkey off my grandfather when I was 8 or 9, and I used to ride to them Sna and every place on the donkey. And then a horse after that, and then the bike.
It's a good fast donkey.
No, the donkey, he controlled me, I didn't control him. No, he wasn't too fast, no.
Oh, me Uncle Mickey had the poker nass. This poker nass, you know, was awful grass. He was the biggest poker nass, the wildest poker nass, the finest poker nass in Ireland.
You would have cut your own turf on the bog. And
oh, God, yeah, wheeled them.
What bog would that be now? Or Effrona bog.
The first time I went up to Effrona, there'd be 500 people on it. And you'd hear shout and a cheer and a bar of screech and everything. Hive activity. Some people that have the bottom that have 6 or 7 men to bottom. And Bernie Mahan, Brian Mahan's father, he was the best man ever you seen on the bog. He could take out the last sand. And you know there was an ancient footpath found in the bog. It went from, that crouch was at Brian Mahan's.
Yeah.
It went from there and it came out at the back of Sheeran's.
Okay. And
I suppose it to be around water level, to be 8 or 10 foot down and about 6 foot from the bottom. And it was that depth of stakes down, timbers across, one going, and all little tiny kibbions in. And we used to be cursing it, and ignorance, you didn't know. And years after you found out what it was a footpath right through the bog. There was a bit of it reconstructed in the museum in Sligo, and then it was moved to Parks Castle, but I don't know where it is now.
Yeah, sure, everybody cut turf that time. There was no other fuel for the fire. They couldn't afford to buy coal. We used to go to a rigging and get a cartload of column. And
you make the column balls.
Mix the column balls, yeah. That's what they burned the grate over, I'll tell you now.
And can you explain how you'd make a column ball?
Well, you got that. Shove a heap of column out there.
This would be like fine coal dust and slack. Would it be something like slack?
Yeah. And you mixed daub in water into slurry, and you mixed that with the column to make it stick together.
Yeah.
It used to be a dirty job in the hands. So.
And you'd leave it to dry then, and...
No, you wouldn't bother. You just put it straight on the fire.
And good heat out of it.
Oh man, it would put you out of it. To put you out of the house, the heat.
And was there... Some people reckon that the blue daub was the good daub to mix it
blue
through.
daub was the best. The hand was the best. It was the best for sticking.
Yeah. You were saying that there was a mill in the area then as well.
I was in Onahirley.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know where exactly it was. But I heard a lot about it. I heard people talking about it, and I read about it. And the swim maps, it just shows the mill. But it's big, so you can't... I don't think they have it there, but it's in some of the...
It's down around Onahirley Crossroads.
Could be around that river, I suppose,
Yeah.
That runs down. And I was telling you there's a weir there where catching eels, I think it is for. So it could be around there.
And that's a place where you would have visited.
Yeah.
When you were growing up.
Oh yeah, and there used to be a lime kiln there. So I'd say to be around where the lime kiln was.
And thrashing. Why I do the thrashing as well. Jack Bohan up the road, he had a thrashing machine.
Yeah.
And he used to pull it with horses first. Then he got a tractor and pulling it around with the tractor. From farm to farm.
And they'd spend a few days in an area and...
Yeah. We used to go when you'd listen and you'd hear the noise of the thrasher in the distance, and you'd go to that house and you always got a few bob for helping out.
Yeah.
Taking the chaff out from under it or for pulling the straw at the back.
Back then when you were growing up there was no such thing as an electric blanket at night.
No, the old bachelors would be talking about different ways to keep warm in bed, Someone would throw the bike on top of them, and scaffold boards and all sorts of things.
There was an old tradition there where, was it a brick could be heated?
Oh yeah, brick or an oven lid, and wrap a bit of a blanket around or a towel around it. That was good. That was quite good.
And that'd keep you good and warm. Would you leave it in the bed at night or?
Yeah, you'd keep it there, push it out of the way when it got cold, kept your feet warm,
Yeah.
And sure, Lisa Jane kept everyone warm with the quilts. Did you ever see the quilts she made?
I didn't know.
Did you ever see the patchwork quilts?
No.
You never did?
No, never. Oh. Although maybe I grew up having them over me and I didn't know.
I bet you did.
Yeah, I probably did.
Yeah, you bet
I do remember quilts where you had big squares.
Yeah, all sorts of squares.
And different colours.
Yeah, that was
so that's probably them.
She done that for half the country for that.
Yeah.
Because that time you couldn't get free gold to buy,
Mm.
Yeah, well, she done a great job there.
And then her Mick's sister had a shop at the side of our house.
Yeah, poor Bee. She was a lovely old girl.
And people would bring the eggs there and they'd be collected and brought off then to the man that would go around and collect.
Vernon, outside Carrick there. And she used to get a barrel of herdings every Lent. And my uncle Matt would take half them. Because he didn't eat meat in Lent.
When you mentioned Lent there, during Lent, dances wouldn't have gone ahead.
No dances, no. There used to be plays. A lot of the schools and that churches would have plays, which was great entertainment, really.
What about going out on the Wren then? December the 26th, would you have gone out on...
Oh yeah. Myself and Mary Bridget, my sister, went out several times, and then myself and Christy Mahon went. We went 7 and 6 each, so it was a lot of money that time. We went down to Lower on a Kincha, and they don't see children much, and everyone they gave us a £0.5 or 2 shillings. And we couldn't either sing nor dance, but we tried it on.
And would you have been dressed up, would you?
Oh yeah.
You would have had different clothes on.
Yeah,
and
you wouldn't know who you were.
And what kind of songs? Can you remember what you might have sang?
No, you'd have a mouth organ or something, but you couldn't know any tunes.
Yeah.
You just make noise with the other fruit. That 1 foot thing was all you could do. You were able to, was all we could use at dancing. And then New Year's Day, there was certain houses I used to go to. I used to go to my grandfather's, and I used to go up to Johnny Gill's, and they'd give me 5 shillings.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to go. They used to ask me to go every year.
And that was on New Year's Day?
Aye, first in the house.
And was there a tradition then there, a superstition?
There was, yeah. I don't know what it was.
Was it about a woman coming to the door?
Something like that, maybe. Because my mother-in-law always put a bottle of wine out, and you'd have to go to the door before 12 o'clock and knock on the door and come in with the bottle. She came from Sligo.
And then Little Christmas, 6th of January. How would that be celebrated?
We never celebrated that a lot. My grandfather and grandmother, my father and mother and Mary Bridget and me, we always went up to our uncle on Boxing Day, Francie Bowens. We'd walk up and think nothing of it, it's a nice walk. Walk back around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. My grandfather would be very nervous to go by the old Protestant church up at Lotttown.
And that's still there, so it is?
It is, I think Dermot has it now, I think.
Dermot, yeah. And I wonder when would a service have been held there?
Oh, to be in the early 40s.
And would there have been much use for it back then?
Not a terrible lot, no. No. There was a lot of Protestants in that area one time. There's Fergusons, Hutchisons, Sunters, Stewarts, the Craigs. And then there was Dobson's up at Tash.
When we talked about changes earlier on, when the electricity came in, was it a big change?
It was. That was. I was 16 when the electricity came, and I was 12 when we got our first radio, and that was 2 batteries. There was a wet battery and a dry battery, and we had to go into Tom Daly's with the wet battery, and that was acid. On the bike you didn't know how dangerous it was. And I met a woman in Luton. She used to go there too. She was from up at Kilmore. It's a Tom's. And then when I got the electricity, it was great. They didn't need any batteries for the radio.
Now, I suppose at that time a lot of houses were thatch, were they?
There were a lot of them thatched. Ours was always galvanised. Well, Jimmy galvanised, done the galvanising ours. My grandfather was thatched, and Turton's areas was thatched.
I wonder, were they worried at that time, having a flow of electricity coming in and a thatched roof? Just when electricity was so new,
I wouldn't think so. And
when it come to the water, then was from the well. Yeah. And so
that was a great boom altogether when the water came.
And the water, when that was being done, before that, growing up, it would have been a tub in front of the fire.
A basin for washing it. And you'd come home, if it went out, you'd come home after boil a kettle of water and wash and get out. But we had one of the best electricians in Ireland. Beside him, he set up the X-ray stuff in Galway Hospital, and he set up all the computers in Dublin Airport. That was Benny Lane. But he was the same age as me. He was too young to do that much when I came first. But he was always interested in electricity, and generating electricity on his own, you know.
There was good wells around Effrona, Jim.
There was. We used to go to one in Sonny Gralton's. I wonder if it's still there.
Sonny Gralton was over the high road.
Across from my grandfather's.
Yeah.
I don't go through my grandfather's street. And there was one in beside Parky Early's. He had a farm called Gills, and there was a nice little well there.
Yeah.
Actually, there was wells everywhere.
Where would your local well have been?
Just over there a bit. Not that far over either.
Good water.
Yeah.
Would Pancake Tuesday have been celebrated?
Oh yeah.
That was a good day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
And I suppose other things then that would have been baked were potato cakes and box teas and stuff like that. And
my mother would start making box tea, and she'd have 4 made before you see any on the plate. We'd all be picking and eating bits of it.
Yeah. And St. Bridget's crosses.
Yeah, didn't know much about that now.
Would you have made them in school?
No, we made nothing in Kildare school.
Yeah.
And our house, it wasn't a religious house, you know. My grandfather's was, but ours wasn't. If you were my grandfather's, you had to say the rosary every night.
I suppose other customs then, Mayflowers, shaking Mayflowers.
We used to do that, but we didn't know much about the custom. We just pull the Mayflowers and shake them around the house.
And was there a certain way you had to shake them, or?
No, we didn't know that. My mother, you see, her mother died when she was very young, so she probably wouldn't have learned the full thing, you know. And her father he wouldn't be too into it. But Margaret's mother was into it.
You're a relation of the famous Jimmy Gralton.
Yeah, I was born in the same house as him as well, and about 2.5 years after he was deported.
And what's the connection between you, Jim, and Jimmy?
Well, there's a double connection. He was the first cousin to both my grandfathers. Yeah. Alice Campbell was a sister to my great-grandmother on my mother's side. And Mick Gralton was an uncle to my grandfather.
And the priest then that would have been there when Jimmy Gralton was in Effrona, were they the same priests that were in Gowell when you would have been going to Mass?
No, Father Moran was there when I was there. It was, what was your man's name there? But you know when they put the cross in Shimore?
Yeah, the Marian year.
Well, that priest that was there when Jimmy was there, he was at that cross, and he was talking to old B. Gralton and my sister Rita, and he says to old B, "Is that man Gralton still alive?" "Oh no, he's dead, Father," she says, "and he died naturally too," she says, because he said he'd die of Orden, you know. No.
And was it true what they said in another church? It was written down that a priest had made a reference to horns.
Oh yeah, that was the one in Kiltubbert. He went down and he asked him, "What do you want?" He said, "I want a fit on." And he says, if you give me a pair of horns, I'll get a great job in the circus.
And you must have heard great stories growing up.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
You're okay, Jim.
Yeah, I feel terrible about what happened to him. Everything in our house belonged to him. He gave the place to my father. Some of his relations weren't too happy about it, but we were rare there, and everything was Jimmy's. And when the horse came too old to do any more work, my father had to sell him, and I seen him cry the night before he sold him. He sold him in Longford. Our house got raided a couple of times in the middle of the night by police when I was very young.
And this is when Jimmy would have been in America.
He was in America, yeah.
He was deported at this stage.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they were still, targeting the Gralton homestead.
My father was an IRA man, and we used to put up IRA men coming from the border. We used to blow up customs posts around the border. And when I was 1 year old, cradled me in his arms in our house and played a game of cards. He went down to the border and he was blown up that night. And all they could tell it was him was by his hair, he had red hair.
Mm.
And that was the sort of house we had. I often woke up in the morning and you'd see a tough little man with a gun on his hip walking around the house or having a wash or something, And I suppose that's why they raided it. They never got anything or anybody, as far as I know. And my father was a communist. And but he never tried to instill it in us. We had our own minds. Might have the same ideals as Jimmy Gralton, but I couldn't do what he done. I had when I grew up, I had a family, and Jimmy didn't have a family to think about,
Mm.
And his sister used to come and stay in our place now and again, because when Jimmy gave the place to my father, there was a lien on the house that there was a room there for his mother, and as far as I know, it's still there.
Mm.
And she used to come now and again and stay.
Did he stay in touch when he was in America?
He did, but not so much in the last while. We heard from someone else that he was dead when he died.
Yeah.
And I don't think he married Busy Cronin, but he must be they were quite old when they got married.
And that happened in America?
In America, yeah, because he lived about 15 years after being deported to America. And I've got his papers from America someplace, but most of it is black, rubbed out,
These are papers from the government where...
FBI files and all that,
Yeah.
He went on to be an alderman and he was involved in politics and that,
And I suppose the movie Jimmy's Hall, how well did that movie then depict the story?
Reasonably well, reasonably only. He never had a girlfriend that he come back to. That was just put in to tart it up a bit, Do
you see any solution to things that could improve the climate?
Well, not at the moment, because you see these people like Trump and these people, they have billions, or they're supposed to have billions, and what good is it to them? Such people at the bottom haven't got anything. That's why you have so much poverty in the world. It's all going to the one place. And until they can change that, you'll have this problem.
That's it from the second Christmas Past programme, looking at memories. And my thanks to Padraig O'Neill from Brain Drum and to Jim Gralton, a native of Effrina, now based in Luton, England. Until next time, thank you for listening, and from myself, Mike Mulvihill, goodbye.